Hey there, it's Emily, and welcome to another episode of English in Ease, your calm space for learning real English at your own pace. Let me ask you something. Have you ever spent hours trying to memorize a list of new English words, only to realize that just a week later, most of them have completely disappeared from your mind? If that's you, trust me, you're not alone. Learning vocabulary can feel like pouring water into a leaky bucket. But the good news is, you don't have to keep doing it the hard way. Today, we're going to talk about smarter ways to remember new words, and not just for a test, but for life. So grab your tea, or just relax, and let's begin this learning journey together. When I first started learning languages myself, I remember feeling frustrated. I'd see a new word, look it up, repeat it 10 times, and yet, it just wouldn't stick. And that's where so many learners get stuck. Let's talk about why it's so hard to remember new vocabulary. The truth is, it's not because you're bad at learning, it's because most of us are using strategies that simply don't work well for our memory. One of the biggest problems is memorizing without context. Think of it like this. If I gave you a string of random numbers right now, like 82, 16, 73, 04, would you remember them tomorrow? Probably not. That's exactly what happens when you try to memorize vocabulary from a long list without seeing how those words live and breathe in real English. Another issue? Overloading. I know it's tempting to think, I'm going to learn 100 words this weekend and change my life. But our brains don't work that way. When we try to cram in too much information at once, we're not building deep connections. We're just piling up words without roots. It's like trying to build a house by throwing bricks in a pile. You need structure. And then there's repetition, or the lack of it. You see a word once and think it's learned. But if you don't come back to it, if you don't see it again and again in different places, it just fades. Our brains need gentle reminders over time. That's how real memory works. Now here's another common trap: not using the words actively. Reading them is a start, but if you're not speaking or writing with them, they don't become part of your active vocabulary. It's like buying a fancy tool but never opening the box. Oh, and we can't forget translation. Yes, translating words into your first language can help at the beginning, but if you rely on it too much, it actually slows you down. You start depending on a mental shortcut that keeps you from thinking in English. And that's the ultimate goal, right? So let's recap the biggest challenges that make vocabulary hard to remember. No context, trying to memorize isolated words, too much at once, overloading your brain. No repetition, seeing a word once and forgetting it. No usage, not speaking or writing with new words. Too much translation, not letting English live on its own in your mind. If any of these sound familiar, don't worry. Now that we understand what's holding us back, we can start changing the way we learn, together. Let's talk about strategies. Real, simple techniques that help your brain actually keep new words and bring them back when you need them. The first one is contextual learning. This means learning new words through sentences, conversations, or even little stories. Instead of memorizing define equals explain, you can learn a sentence like, "Can you define what you mean by that?" Now the word has life, it has friends around it, and your brain has something to hold on to. Here's an example. Take the word elaborate. You could just memorize to explain in more detail. Or you could hear it in a sentence like, "She elaborated on her weekend plans." And suddenly, it clicks. You see it in action. Now, if you want to go a step further, try writing your own sentence. For example, "Could you elaborate on that idea during the meeting?" That's how you start owning the word. The second strategy is one I absolutely love: visualization and association. If you hear the word smooth, don't just think not rough. Picture the smooth surface of your phone screen, feel it, or imagine silk slipping through your fingers. That personal image ties the word to your memory in a much deeper way. Let's try another. The word glow. What do you think of? Maybe the warm light of a candle, or your phone lighting up in the dark. That image makes the word memorable. Another powerful tool is something called spaced repetition. If you're not familiar with that term, here's the idea. Instead of studying the same word over and over again in one day, you space out your reviews. For example, review a word today, then again in 3 days, then after a week, then again in 2 weeks. This method is backed by science. It actually mirrors how our brain naturally forgets and remembers information. Apps like Anki, Quizlet, or even just a good old notebook can help you plan your reviews. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Here's how I do it. When I learn a new word, I write it down with a sentence, and I mark a reminder to review it in a few days. It becomes a habit, like brushing your teeth. Now, once you've started learning a word, the real magic happens when you use it. Speak it. Write it. Say it out loud in your room, or text it to a friend. Even if no one else hears you, it's helping your brain learn. A fun tip? Describe your day in English. Let's say you've just learned the word productive. Say it out loud. Today was really productive. I got everything done on time. Boom, you've used it. Now it's yours. Even if you're not speaking with others regularly, try shadowing. Repeat after me during this podcast or another video. Mimic my rhythm, my pronunciation. Say the word like you own it. Because you do. And remember, it's totally okay to make mistakes. That's how you grow. In fact, using a word incorrectly and then learning the right way is one of the fastest ways to memorize it. It makes the word unforgettable. All right, let's pause here for a moment. So far, we've talked about why memorizing words can be difficult, the biggest mistakes that cause forgetfulness, 3 smart strategies: contextual learning, visualization, and spaced repetition, and how using the word regularly helps make it stick. In the next part, we'll go deeper into fun techniques that make vocabulary learning more enjoyable, because yes, it can be fun. We'll also look at how to build your vocabulary naturally through media, games, and creativity. Welcome back. I'm Emily, and you're still listening to English in Ease, your go-to space for learning real, usable English in a calm and enjoyable way. In Part 1, we covered why memorizing vocabulary can feel so hard, and we looked at smart strategies like learning in context, using visuals, and practicing spaced repetition. Now in Part 2, let's explore something that often gets overlooked: how to make vocabulary learning fun. Because let's be honest, if it's not enjoyable, it's easy to give up. But when something makes you smile or laugh, it sticks with you longer. So let's dive into playful, creative, and effective methods to learn new words, and actually remember them. Let's start with a classic technique that never gets old: word association games. This is where you take a new word and connect it with as many things as possible. The goal is to build a web of meaning around that word, like a little neighborhood in your brain. For example, if the word is sparkling, what do you think of? Maybe sparkling water, fireworks, a diamond ring, the stars in the night sky, someone's smile. Each of those images makes the word richer, deeper, and easier to remember. You're no longer memorizing a word, you're building a relationship with it. You can do this alone or with a friend. Say the word out loud and brainstorm 5 connections. Try to make them visual, emotional, even silly. That's where the fun begins. Speaking of silly, here's another favorite: storytelling. I truly believe stories are one of the most powerful ways to learn vocabulary. Here's how it works. Take one or two new words and create a short, funny, or even absurd story around them. The weirder it is, the more your brain will remember it. Let's try one. Imagine the word is enormous. You could say, there was an enormous pizza that was so big it needed its own zip code. People had to drive around it in golf carts just to find the olives. Will you ever forget the word enormous after that? Probably not. And you can do this daily. Write a 1-minute story using your new vocabulary. The process of building a little world with your words helps cement them in your memory. Next up is one of my favorite vocabulary adventures, scavenger hunts. This is where you take your learning into the real world, or your digital world. Challenge yourself to find new words in books, movies, song lyrics, even product packaging. Write down 5 to 10 words you didn't know, and then challenge yourself to use them in sentences later that day. You're turning your environment into your classroom, and that's when learning becomes exciting. And if you're watching a show or movie in English, hit pause and write down phrases that stand out. Listen to how the actors use the words. What tone do they use? What's the situation? That's real English in action, and it's way more effective than a list of definitions. Now here's a fun one, karaoke. Yes, singing can help you learn vocabulary. Pick an English song you like, look up the lyrics, sing along. Not only will it help you learn new words, but it will also improve your pronunciation, rhythm, and listening skills. Songs are sticky. Words stay with us longer when they're tied to music, and you don't have to be a great singer. Just enjoy the process. Try this with a slow song at first. Something by Adele or Ed Sheeran. Read the lyrics. Highlight words you don't know. Look them up. Then sing. Feel the words as you say them. This is learning through joy. Another technique I recommend, especially if you like acting or imagining, is role-playing. Pretend you're in a cafe. You're ordering a coffee in English. Use the words menu, delicious, order, recommend, bill. Or imagine you're at the airport. You might use boarding pass, luggage, delay, destination. You don't need a partner for this. You can speak out loud alone, in front of a mirror, or record yourself on your phone. The point is to create realistic situations where you're actively using new vocabulary. This kind of practice builds confidence and makes the words feel natural. And if you enjoy testing yourself, try creating your own word quizzes. Once a week, write down the words you've learned. Next to them, write a short definition or example sentence. But leave a few blanks. Then, go back the next day and test yourself. Which words do you remember easily? Which ones need a little more love? Quizzes don't have to be formal. You can make them as fun as you want. Add emojis, use colors. Even give yourself points or rewards if you get them right. Learning is allowed to feel good. Here's another creative method, comics or cartoons. If you love drawing, make your own comic strip with your new vocabulary. Even stick figures work. Put the word into a conversation bubble. Give it emotion. Give it movement. Or find English comics online. Read them, look up new words, and try to retell the story in your own words afterward. This is especially good for visual learners who need pictures to anchor their memory. Let's take a moment to sum up these fun and creative vocabulary methods. Word association games. Connect new words with as many things as possible. Storytelling. Build silly or vivid stories using your new words. Vocabulary scavenger hunts. Collect new words from media and your surroundings. Karaoke. Sing English songs to boost vocabulary and pronunciation. Role-playing. Imagine situations and act out using new vocabulary. Word quizzes. Test yourself regularly in a playful way. Comics or cartoons. Draw or read visual stories that include new words. These methods don't just make vocabulary learning more effective, they make it enjoyable. And the more fun you have, the more likely you are to stick with it long term. Remember, learning English isn't just about memorizing, it's about experiencing the language, playing with it, feeling it, and yes, even laughing with it. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. In part 3, we're going to wrap things up by talking about the common mistakes learners make when trying to memorize vocabulary and how you can avoid those pitfalls. We'll also go over some final motivational tips to help you stay consistent and keep growing. Welcome back to English in Ease. I'm Emily, and in this final part of our episode, we're going to talk about something just as important as learning strategies, avoiding the common traps that slow you down, and knowing how to stay motivated in the long run. You've already learned about how your brain remembers and how to make learning fun. Now let's protect your progress by looking at what not to do and how to keep moving forward with confidence. So, if you've ever felt like you were putting in the effort but not getting results, this part is for you. Let's start with the biggest mistakes many English learners make when memorizing vocabulary. Mistake number 1: learning words in isolation. You've probably heard this already, but it's so important that it bears repeating. Memorizing a word without knowing how it's actually used in real conversation is like learning a piano key without ever hearing a melody. Sure, you can recognize the word define, but if you don't hear or use it in a sentence like, "Can you define that concept for me?" you won't be able to speak with it naturally. Context is key. Learn vocabulary the way native speakers use it, in full expressions, stories, and situations. Mistake number 2: cramming too much at once. Trying to memorize 50 or 100 new words in a single sitting might feel productive, but it's like sprinting through a marathon. You might finish the page, but you won't remember it next week. Instead, focus on depth over quantity. Learn fewer words, but use them more. Practice them, connect them to your life, and build lasting memory. A powerful strategy is to aim for just 5 to 10 new words per week, but use them actively every day. That's how they become part of your real English. Mistake number 3: focusing only on definitions. Definitions are helpful, but they're just one piece of the puzzle. If you only memorize gargantuan equals very large, you're missing out on learning how to actually use it. For example, the mansion was so gargantuan it took 5 minutes just to walk from the front door to the kitchen. That sentence helps you feel the word, not just know it. Don't just ask, "What does this word mean?" Ask, "Where would I use this? How does it feel? What's another way to say it?" Mistake number 4: not reviewing regularly. We've all done this. Learned something once, and then never looked at it again. But without review, memory fades. This is why spaced repetition is so important. It mimics the way your brain naturally forgets and recalls. By returning to the word at the right time, you turn short-term memory into long-term knowledge. Even just 5 minutes of review every day can make a huge difference. Use tools like flashcards, sticky notes, apps like Anki, or your own spaced repetition schedule in a notebook. Make review a habit, not a chore. Mistake number 5: being afraid to make mistakes. This one is big, especially for adults. So many learners hesitate to use new words out loud because they're afraid of sounding silly or getting it wrong. But let me tell you something. Mistakes are where real learning happens. Think about how babies learn to speak. They try, they mess up, they get corrected, and eventually, they speak fluently. You're no different. Every time you try to use a new word, even if it's not perfect, you're one step closer to owning it. So speak out loud. Write the word in a sentence. Use it, even if it feels awkward at first. That's how fluency begins. Mistake number 6: staying in your comfort zone. If you only stick to the same basic words you already know, you won't grow. Learning vocabulary means stretching your ability. Try more academic words. Explore vocabulary that fits your interests, your career, or your dreams. For example, if you're into marketing, explore terms like branding, demographic, engagement, or niche. If you love psychology, try words like cognitive, perception, resilience. These aren't just big words, they're part of real-life conversations and work in specific niche areas. Let your vocabulary grow with your goals. Now that we've explored the mistakes, let's focus on how to stay motivated, because consistency is the secret to success. Here are a few tips to keep your vocabulary journey alive and exciting. Tip number 1. Track your progress. Make a list of the words you've learned. Every week, review that list. Seeing how far you've come is incredibly motivating. You can even create a vocabulary journal. Write down each word, the sentence you learned it in, and a little doodle or image to go with it. It's your personal dictionary, made by you, for you. Tip number 2. Set small, achievable goals. Instead of saying, "I want to learn 1,000 words this year," say, "I'll learn 5 new words this week. I'll use 3 new words in conversation tomorrow. I'll review last week's words every Saturday." Tiny goals lead to big results, and each time you achieve one, you'll feel that little burst of progress, and that's what keeps you going. Tip number 3. Mix in what you love. If you love music, learn through lyrics. If you love cooking, learn food-related words and watch recipe videos. If you're into tech, explore English tech blogs or YouTube reviews. Connect English to your passion, and you'll never feel bored. When the language means something to you personally, learning becomes joyful. Tip number 4. Celebrate mistakes. Yes, celebrate them. Each time you try and stumble, you're telling your brain, "This is part of my learning." Write down your funny mistakes, laugh about them, and then correct them. Mistakes aren't failure, they're the evidence that you're learning. Tip number 5. Surround yourself with English. Make English part of your life, not just your study time. Label items in your house, listen to podcasts, watch shows with subtitles, write to-do lists in English. The more English becomes part of your real world, the more natural it will feel. This is how you start to think in English. Not by translating, but by living the language. Let's recap what we've covered in this episode. Part 1. The challenges of vocabulary learning. Forgetting words due to lack of context, overload, poor repetition, and over-translation. Smart strategies like contextual learning, visualization, spaced repetition, and active usage. Part 2. Fun and effective learning techniques. Word association games, storytelling, karaoke, scavenger hunts, role-playing, word quizzes, comics. Part 3. Mistakes to avoid and staying motivated. Avoid isolation, cramming, fear of mistakes, and easy words. Stay motivated by tracking progress, setting goals, and making English part of your lifestyle. I want to leave you with this. You are capable of building a strong, beautiful vocabulary. It doesn't happen in one day, but it does happen with consistency, curiosity, and compassion toward yourself. Language is a living thing. The more you play with it, speak it, and enjoy it, the more it grows. So keep learning, keep laughing, and keep speaking. Even if it's just to yourself in the mirror, every word you learn is another step toward fluency. Thank you for being with me today. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe to English in Ease, share this episode with a friend, and come back next time for more peaceful, powerful English practice. Until then, stay curious, stay kind, and keep learning. Take care, Emily.